Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. I need a roll call, please. Thank you. Mayor Roy gives her, is she there? I thought she was giving her regrets. Is she here? No? Okay. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the Durham Region Transit Executive Committee for September the 4th. Commissioner Garrett, did I get it right? Yes. And Commissioner Anderson, is there any questions on the minutes? I don't see any. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And our first presentation is from General Manager Bill Holmes.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Crawford, commissioners, staff, and members of the public joining us today. Today's quote is from a long-term basketball coach called John Wooden. You'll see a report later on regarding a change to our 2024 bus orders as a result of not receiving funding through the Zero Emission Transit Fund. It's very unfortunate, but also necessary for us to quickly regroup and do what we can and make decisions based on what we do have. That's something really special that you have in your DRT staff and the regional staff, which sets them apart from some organizations that become paralyzed when something doesn't go quite as planned. We're very proud of the resilience of your staff to successfully navigate our changing environment, particularly over the past 5 years, and the near future surely doesn't look too much different than that. However, as one of our operations supervisors has proudly expressed to me on many occasions, we continue to strive perfection, but we'll settle for excellence. Next slide. Oh, I've got my clicker here. So the story for September remains pretty consistent for 2024, record level ridership and demand for transit service exceeding capacity across the region. Further to highlight, in past meetings, On Demand has resumed delivering integrated trips for customers registered with specialized services, customers with conditional eligibility. Where these customers have the ability, they may be provided trips using a combination of resources. We've had several successful integrated trips over the past few weeks where customers have been picked up from home, taken to a hub bus stop, and then connected to the scheduled service to travel the rest of their distance. For some of this service, for some customers, it's not convenient, as it is a trip delivered using multiple vehicles, and it's not as convenient as just getting on one vehicle at home and getting off that vehicle at your destination. However, they do have the abilities for these integrated trips. DRT's travel training program has also been enhanced as part of resuming integrated trips, and customers are reaching out to schedule their training sessions with us. We've actually had one person who is now actually going to the bus stop by themselves instead of getting picked up and taken there, and that frees up that capacity for other customers to use. That's really part of what we're looking at, is leveraging all the capacity that we have across the network to maximize the number of customer trips that we can take, both on the on-demand service and scheduled service. Further to recent media and government announcements, the next 3 slides will summarize for you some of the details of the newly announced Canada Public Transit Fund. Some of you may have received communications from MPs, MPPs, and others, and or seen media reports. The CPTF consists of 3 streams of funding, the first of which is the Metro Region Agreement Stream, or MRA. This stream includes $2 billion annually to fund regional transit plans. There's 2 metro regions in Ontario. There's the Greater Golden Horseshoe, of which Durham is part of, and then there's also the Ottawa-Gatineau area. The Ontario Ministry of Transportation will be the lead for both regions, and they'll be working with the local transit agencies and municipalities in putting together the regional plans, which they will then submit for funding. The CPTF does have specific housing requirements which are tied to the funding eligibility. Issues such as the elimination of mandatory minimum off-street parking requirements within 800 meters of a higher order transit corridor, and limiting and permitting high-density housing within 800 meters of these corridors as well. As you can see, this stream is focused on those higher order transit programs such as bus rapid transit networks, light rail, and other higher order transits. The MTO has reached out to us already, and we are part of the development of this Metro Region Agreement and the plan for the entire GGH, and we're looking to participate over the coming weeks to start advancing that work. The Ministry of Transportation will be submitting the application to the Ministry of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Canada, and further details will be forthcoming as we know a little bit more about the program. The one point to note as well, it is a cost sharing, so the 3 streams, we are expecting they will be cost shared across the different levels of government. There's also the baseline stream, which is a $500 million annual baseline stream that was first released earlier this year. It's intended to support routine growth and state of good repair, as well as active transportation. We expect this to be very similar potentially to the way the gas tax works, as we get our allocation on an annual basis based on our capital plan and some other metrics. And it will be that predictable funding that will support us on an ongoing basis. We know that it will be cost shared as well, with 40% of federal funding for capital projects and up to 80% for non-capital projects. And this funding stream is between the federal government and the municipalities. The housing-related commitments that were summarized as part of the Metro Region Agreement apply here as well. We have submitted our expression of interest in mid-September, and it was accepted, and we are eligible to move on to the next phase. And we're just currently waiting to hear back from the ministry in terms of what that next step will be. The third and final stream is the targeted funding stream, and it's another $500 million annually, and is focused on single projects for electrifying public transit and school bus transportation, active transportation, and rural and remote transit solutions. This stream is intended to replace the Zero Emission Transit Fund, the Rural Transit Solutions Fund, and Active Transportation Fund that currently exist. We don't have any of the details on that one yet. The focus really is on that baseline stream, as well as getting the Metro Region Agreement stream up and running. The money for this program is not expected to be flow until at least 2026 at the earliest, and more reasonably likely 2027. I want to provide an update today for you as well in terms of what's going on at the national level through the Canadian Urban Transit Association in terms of what are those key priorities across the country when it comes to public transit. CUTA held their recent lobby day in Ottawa, and they had a few items on there that I thought were worthwhile sharing here. First is the call for enhanced safety and security, including Bill C-395, that will expand the definition of a transit operator to include all transit workers. Right now, it's just the bus operator. And it also strengthens penalties for assaults against transit workers. The second ask as part of the safety and security initiatives is a $75 million annual fund for 2 years to invest in safety and security measures across the country. CUSA is also calling on the federal government to accelerate the rollout of the CPTF baseline stream to their 2025 budget so that transit agencies can access that capital sooner. And that would be very, very beneficial for us given our current state of funding for our fleet electrification efforts. The third call was for the federal government to collaborate with agencies in the provinces to develop a long-term, sustainable funding strategy to ensure transit services remain accessible and reliable into the future. You'll also see in the GM information report a couple of great letters from some of our local partners. The first is from Megan Bowles, Manager of Employment Services with the Ability Center, regarding our continued collaboration with the Pathways to Employment program. We've previously reported how we've supported the program, and we're really appreciative of the letter from Morgan recently about the increasing confidence that participants are feeling in terms of being able to be independent when using public transit. The second letter is from Alicia Russell, principal at the Ajax High School, which is the first high school partner we have as part of our DRT High School Ambassador program. So with that, I just want a little bit about that, and it's really an initiative that was started through our engagement and change team as a way of, again, broadening our ability to influence transit ridership starting within the high schools. We've talked a lot here about generating ridership at a young age, so that will continue on through people's lives. And this is a great way of doing that in partnership with the schools. And really proud that our DRT ambassador team has really stepped up, in particular to Kamika Walfall, who's been really leading this program for us. So we've got a short video here to show you. It's our first 2 high school ambassadors, Seom Javid and Sahara Zarwala. They're both grade 10 students who shared that they're very excited to get going at Ajax High School and with their peers. Roger, can you get that going?
Hi, I'm Som,
And I'm Zara.
and we're excited to be
Your 2024 to 2025
DRT Transit Ambassadors. We're so excited to be part of the DRT team.
So here's a little bit about us.
I'm a part of Eco Club, STEM Club, and badminton. This means I'm all around the school all the time.
A little bit about me is that I volunteered in Breakfast Club for the whole school year, and I also did French tutoring over the summer, so helped others out with French. And a fun fact is that I love playing badminton with my bestie, Zara. Both of us are a part of
MSA, Muslim Student Association,
an SAC, which is Student Activity Council. We're so excited.
to join the DRT team.
So that was actually, they submitted that video on their own, and we got that, and we didn't think we could do any better. It was a self-made video, so we thought that was great for them to do that. They've already had a couple initiatives, one at the school that our ambassador team supported them in terms of being present. I believe they engaged almost 300 students. They came up and started asking questions about the service and the network. And they also participated in a Durham District School Board evening event, which was looking at supporting students with disabilities in terms of getting prepared for their future beyond high school. So far it's working very well, and you'll hear more from this as we move forward and looking to expand the program in subsequent years. Also wanted to share with you today that we have planned our next annual accessibility forum, which is scheduled for Tuesday, January the 14th at the Oshawa Convention Center between 6:30 and 8:30. Further details will be shared with the public as we do get closer to the event. We've also received a number of inquiries about the newly launched Ontario Transit Investment Fund. This is a $5 million annual fund that is aimed at small, rural, and underserved communities in Ontario, and it's intended to help them establish a local transit system. This fund will replace the existing Community Transportation Grant Program. We're going to continue to monitor this program, but it is very unlikely that we'll be eligible for funding based on the criteria for it. I can share with you, though, some challenges that some of the smaller communities have shared in various forums, and that the current program is aimed at supporting municipalities to get the transit service up and running, but then that's it. The funding stops, and it's up to those municipalities to continue on operating and funding the program, which many of them have said they simply just don't have the resources to do that. So great initiative, but from an ongoing sustainability perspective, the smaller municipalities have just indicated they're unable to sustain it beyond the funding that the province is providing. Also wanted to let you know today that we have finally signed our agreement with PowerOn, which was very crucial for us in terms of advancing our fleet electrification into the future. And on a related note, we have soft launched our battery electric buses. So we've got 6 of them on property now. We have one that's in service, another one ready to go. We've got one bus that we're using focused specifically on the training for all of our staff. And then the 2 are just awaiting to get out in service as well. So more to come on that, but we wanted to make sure we had a bunch of the wrinkles worked out, specifically from an operational perspective, before we do too much promotion around that. We also have a couple of other reports in today's agenda. One provides an update on the status of the transit network, as we did last year, just to sort of level set where we're at, and also our recommendation for the 2025 fare increase. So I'm going to take some questions in a moment. I will come back after that. We've got a couple of presentations for you as well, which will be very interesting, but happy to take any questions you have on today's presentation.
Thank you, General Manager Holmes. Is there any from committee, any questions at all from committee? Commissioner Carter.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Madam Clerk. I hope you're having a great day. Bill, I just, couple things. One is I just want to say great work by your team, and thank you for the presentation. There's a lot of great news that's there. Number 2, those 2 students, you should hire them right away. They're just, you can't get better ambassadors than that.
Exactly.
So if you have the opportunity, put them on posters, get the video out there. It'll help everybody understand how important our transit system is. But just keep up the great work. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Anybody else from committee? Okay, Commissioner Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Mr. Holmes. Well, first of all, I applaud you on the increased measures for safety and security, not just of the transit drivers, but of all staff. There's no room for that kind of violence at any form on our staff. I'd like to lead off with a question. With respect to the slide, and I don't know whether you can bring it up, the one that talked about 800 meters development, high-density development.
So yeah, it's one of the slides, Roger, related to the Canada Public Transit Fund.
Sure. So does that only apply to Toronto and Ottawa?
No, it will apply to us as well. We have raised with the ministry some of the challenges with in Durham with the two tiers of municipal government, but it will apply here locally as well. We're very confident in working with our regional planning staff and their understanding what those requirements are. And we'll be working with our local municipalities as well to ensure that everyone's on the same page and are able to make those commitments as we're applying for this funding.
Okay, so just a comment, if I may, on this. I think this is remarkably short-sighted. When you're having a high-density development like that, that's assuming that absolutely nobody in that building drives a car. And if the developer doesn't have to provide for parking for any of the residents, I would just like to know in a 300-unit high-rise building where 250 of the people might have a car, where are they going to expect those people to park when they're not hopefully taking a bus to work and they have to drive somewhere other than on a major transit line? If they considered the impact it's going to have on the surrounding neighborhoods with all that unsequestered parking, using streets, back streets, whatever, is there any consideration of that?
Through the chair, we haven't had an opportunity yet to meet with the provincial or federal government who is launching and putting in place the criteria of the program. But again, as we're having those conversations, will give us that opportunity to better understand some of the requirements and the thinking that went into those that we could gladly share back here once we understand.
I hope so. I mean, originally I heard this to be developments right on a transit line. And part of me thought, well, if somebody didn't want to have a car and just wanted to use bus public transit, maybe that would make sense, but that wouldn't be everybody in that building. So in a car-centric community like Oshawa is, and I'm sure the other municipalities are that way as well, I just think this is remarkably short-sighted, and they need to think about downstream consequences with respect to the negative impact on the surrounding neighborhoods with all those vehicles that are unhoused. But that's just my comment. I hope you'll bring that forward.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garrett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the chance to cycle back. General Manager, I'm just looking at the announcement a little more closely about the Ontario Transit Investment Fund. And the quote coming through Minister Holland's office is about the support for rural communities and more specifically around on-demand. Mm-hmm. You know, in Uxbridge, I'm a huge supporter of it, and the growth is reflecting. So we're getting good service. Can you just cycle back one more time on that, just to say why we're, in your opinion, we're not pursuing it?
Sure. And through the chair, the fund is really intended to support communities that don't have a public transit system. Within the region of Durham, we do have the public transit system and on-demand that extends across the entire region. We know we have some capacity challenges, but in terms of setting up and starting a new transit system, we already have one. So that's where we feel that we wouldn't be eligible for that funding.
Oh, okay. I'm certainly not interested in setting up our own. A member of the OTIF team did reach out specifically to me to ask if we're interested in engaging. That's, wanted to reach out to you, but
sure. Maybe
she's not aware of what we already get the luxury of through our own on-demand. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, and thank you, Bill, for the presentation. Commissioner Garrett mentioned great service in his community. I can say the same for residents of Newcastle and Wilmot Creek, that area. Is there any chance that service might be improved? And second question is, most of the folks say they try and there's really no on-demand services available, whether it's whether it's not enough vehicle or drivers. What are you doing to address that? That's a serious concern for those communities, especially.
Okay. Thank you. And through the chair. So in terms of the first question regarding the two communities that you referenced, looking at Wilmot Creek, and again, looking at areas where ridership is low, that's where the on-demand service is effective. So there's no immediate plans for a scheduled service through that area at this point in time. In Newcastle, I do know we have peak service into Newcastle that goes up to Orono. We are aware that there are residents looking for all-day service that's being extended. Part of the challenge overall, and I'll relate to the second part of your question in terms of that capacity issue, it does come down to capacity. At this point in time, we have all budgeted resources on the street on both the scheduled service and the on-demand side. And it really is as part of that 10-year investment and financing strategy, growing the network beyond where it is today. So providing more all-day service, better access by putting in more routes. And that will happen annually as we go through the budget process and we're able to add service on an annual basis. So that's where we'll see those investments. And it is, again, also related to pressures across the entire network. And that's what our staff as well balance out into where are the greatest pressures that require the greatest levels of service. So that's also a factor that falls into there as well as area coverage.
Can you put your, oh, there it is.
Yeah. One follow-up question. So as for Wilmot Creek, as you know, it's a seniors community. So all they're asking for is not everyday service, but if they on-demand is non-existent according to them, and they're probably challenged with going through the app, etc. Plus, we have very poor cell service, to be quite honest, in that community. So all they're asking for is, say, maybe service once or twice a week, so they know what day, so they can schedule their doctor's appointment around that. Is that possible?
Through the chair, at this point in time, it's very difficult for us to provide service on one day of the week in one location, another day at another location. As a mature transit network, we need to look at the entire network as we're doing that. So that's where, again, where that demand is low, such as, a few trips one day a week, that's where and why we put on demand is, because people then are not restricted to 1 day a week. They can access the service 7 days a week. I will just say that we have an excellent service. It works very well. We do have a capacity challenge that we are trying to address as we move forward every year. But in terms of the level of service, the professionalism of staff, the ease of access to the network, it's second to none. But yes, we do have a capacity challenge that we're attempting to deal with annually as we're moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brenner?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
I wanted to pick up on the question from you, I guess, from your reference to the on-demand. The 118 route, and I'm going to use that one because the 118 route goes through a rural area and then back up to the urban area. That's White Road. And apparently what's happening is that they're offering the on-demand, but in fact, there is the bus that is still actually running on that location but doesn't realize there's a stop. And that would be at 3rd Concession in Highway 2. Or I'm sorry, 3rd Concession in White Road. And there is a brand new stop there, and it's operational. But the on-demand, when they try and book, they end up with on-demand, which is taking them further down the December Trail loop.
Thank you, Commissioner. And through the chair. There we go. Through the chair. Again, thanks for raising that issue to our attention yesterday, and I know staff looked into it today. We did have a system issue, so that those stops that are at that location are part of our scheduled service network. There was a system issue which resulted in operators not servicing that stop, but that has since been corrected. So we do expect that stop will be serviced by the scheduled Route 118 in the days to follow.
Can you put your request to speak again?
General Manager answered my question. That was everything I had to ask. Thank you.
Commissioner Jubb?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Mr. Holmes. Thanks for the presentation today, Bill. You can hear me?
Yes.
Kind of?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Thanks. Thank you, Chair. Just back to my colleague's questions about on-demand. I'm going to sound like a broken record because I ask the same questions every meeting, but the services for 2024, you mentioned obviously we have a capacity issue, which we're well aware of. Brock is the only municipality without any scheduled service. So we rely heavily on on-demand service, which we have extreme challenges up here. That said, the services that were in the 2024 budget, can you clarify? I think I read it in your report. I don't want to get in too far into the report, that these are coming online this month. Is that right?
Yes, they came online in November. Yes, correct.
Okay. And we're only at the start of November. So is it safe to say that the 7,000 hours for the North are going to be seen literally as we speak with that full complement from the 2024 budget?
So those increased on-demand hours would have rolled out the start of November. And a portion of that will be supporting the northern communities, rural communities. So we should start seeing the impact of that over the coming days. So when we report on the November unaccommodated rates, that's what we'll be looking at once we get there. We won't be reporting on that until January. But that's when we'll start to see the impact of those additional hours.
Okay, but if I was to check right now and try to get an on-demand ride, I should be a lot more successful right now than I was 2 weeks ago?
Through the chair, how I will respond is that we have increased the capacity by 7,000 hours. We know we have a ways to go yet. So again, we're working towards that near real-time booking of trips. We know we're not there yet, but that is our objective. Whether we know the 7,000 hours won't get us there, but it does get us a step closer.
Okay, so not to throw this at you, but adding that 7,000 hours, how many hours did the North have prior to that?
Through the chair, I'll have to get back to you to see how the allocation of that gets split up. I'm not an expert on that one, but what we can do is we'll work with our planning staff to respond to that question to both you and Mayor Schumer, so that you've got how that's been allocated.
Okay, that would be helpful. Okay, moving into the 2025 budget, how are we planning and strategizing to get this, if this is approved in 2025, so these services aren't coming into fruition by the end of next year? How do we get this a little quicker? I know there's procurement problems and staffing problems, but is there a plan in place to get this online for the next budget sooner to see increased services even further?
Through the chair, one of the challenges we did experience this year was with the budget being approved in March and those delays. That's sort of how we got to where we are now with the service only rolling out in November. With the budget being moved up and approved in December, it'll give us, again, an advance of 3 months in being able to move forward. Part of the delays relate to procurement delays and or production delays of the type of vehicles that the vendor is ordering. But again, we will ensure that they are provided with the necessary numbers and types of vehicles as soon as the budget gets approved, so that they can then move forward with their procurement and their staffing, hiring of their staff to get those additional hours on the street as soon as possible in 25.
Okay, hopefully it is much quicker, just so it's not almost a year behind, but I get the challenges and constraints. So it's good to know that all the 2024 on-demand hours are in place just in the last couple of days, so I'm definitely going to pass that on, and I appreciate everything, Bill. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I don't have any other questions. So thank you for your report. I think Chris Hornberg, you want to come up? I think you'd be much better to introduce the next people than me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Chair Crawford, Chair Henry. I have the privilege of introducing our next speakers. So I'm going to introduce David, Daniel, and Kayleen from Social Services, as well as Amanda from DRT, who, among many others in social services and DRT in general, have achieved a very successful pilot that we started last year. If you'll recall, this was to fund 2 dedicated outreach workers that would help assist our most vulnerable populations, and especially that intersection that they so often have with transit. They have a great presentation for you today, including some key success metrics, all of which speak to why we want to continue this program in the future. So with that, I will say thank you on behalf of DRT to everybody who's made this pilot so successful, and I'll welcome up David and Daniel to do the presentation.
You didn't say their last names either. Welcome.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Casado Riboletto,
Hi, I'm David Koschel.
and we are both street outreach workers here for the region of Durham. We're here to give a presentation today about our DRT Durham Region Street Outreach Joint Initiative. Next slide, please. Perfect, David.
Okay, so Regional Council has identified a need to increase the street outreach programs to ensure appropriate coverage across the entire region to support the increased instances of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So as of September of 2024, the Durham by name list, which is the central list for all homeless folks who are registered as homeless, has reported 811 active homeless individuals that are on the list. And since Daniel and I have started, that number has increased from last year till now.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. Let's see if I can push that button there. There we go. So we are the Regional Street Outreach Program. We are an engagement team who seeks to support individuals who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness with the goal of building relationships with them, developing trust with them, meeting their basic needs, making referrals to different community agencies so we can meet, any needs they might have related to food, water, shelter, health support, social supports, and ensuring also that individuals who are unsheltered are connected to Durham Region's by name list, as David just mentioned, and the coordinated access system. The reason why this by name list is so important is it gives us an up-to-date picture of how many people in the region are unsheltered. And also by being on that by name list, people are periodically pulled from that list to be matched with a housing worker so that they can be working towards housing goals if that's their goal.
Okay, so the DRT identified a need for the support to fund 2 positions on the outreach team, which was the pilot program that was mentioned. And this was to support individuals who misuse the transit facilities with the aim of connecting them to appropriate services, which is what outreach does. So a dedicated partnership has been developed to focus on supporting individuals who are engaging in extended bus rides and squatting in public bus shelters, which impacts the public access to DRT services. Outreach staff has engaged with individuals to assess and identify their needs, to assist to meet their basic needs, building rapport with them, and then our main goal is to discuss that by name list and complete appropriate referrals from there. We focus on supporting the individuals to accept that referral to a shelter. So based on the success of the partnership, the DRT is continuing to fund 2 outreach staff positions indefinitely as a base item in their budget.
Perfect. So there are a few metrics that we use to evaluate our program. One of them being the number of engagements we have with individuals who are unsheltered here in Durham Region that are intersecting with DRT's infrastructure. So we're constantly, every time we have an engagement with somebody who's using, a bus ride inappropriately, for example, or squatting in a bus shelter, we're logging those engagements. We're also logging, for example, the location of that, bus shelter or bus, for example, the type of incident it was, and we're also monitoring our response time. We want to be ensuring that when those requests for support come in, that we're responding in an appropriate amount of time. And ultimately, too, we're evaluating to see if there's a reduction in the use of police and bylaw involvement. The police and bylaw, nothing against them by any means, but David and I and our outreach team, we're trained in all the different shelters and housing resources and community health resources across Durham Region. And we can, I think we're in a great position to be able to redirect individuals to appropriate services where possible so that they can get the help they need. And so the above here are some of the metrics we use to evaluate this program. It's not a comprehensive list of all of them, and we know that homelessness won't necessarily end overnight. So, you know, there are other metrics and things that we use to evaluate our program.
So some key performance indicators that Dan and I wanted to share with you today was that Outreach has responded to 68 requests from the DRT from January 4th to October 17th, 2024. So this includes bus shelter visits. So we had 25 recorded. So that could be individuals who are squatting in the bus shelter. The extended bus ride calls, there's 18 of them. Clients who access service from these calls, there's about 10. There's an other category, accessing the information and resources that we provide. We have 3. General wellness checks at 3. Different bus terminals across the region, there's 2. And then for client conduct, thankfully it's just a 1. So Outreach has completed a total of 394 interactions at bus shelters and 115 referrals as a result of these interactions.
Perfect. So we have identified some hot spots over the last year or so related to areas where folks may be misusing a bus shelter, for example. Some of those are on the screen there, and they are predominantly across the region in Whitby, Oshawa, Ajax. We are beginning to do more proactive visits to some of these bus shelters across Durham Region. I would say, from my perspective, we've been doing it from the start, but we've now been sort of logging these proactive engagements, as we call it. Since we've started logging these proactive engagements in October 8th to October 17th, we've done over 261 engagements at bus shelters across Durham Region. The numbers are noted up there. Like I mentioned, we've been doing those proactive visits in the previously. It's just we hadn't been necessarily noting them down as proactive. We've been recording the service requests that we've been getting from DRT, and it's something that we will continue to do as we're traveling across Durham Region. We're always looking at the different bus shelters and things like that, and seeing where we can have an impact and support somebody to a more appropriate shelter or other services.
Okay, so the benefits of our partnership is that it represents a very critical opportunity to engage new and existing clients and provide key referrals and support to help end their homelessness. So definitely bridging that gap has been a benefit of our partnership. It protects the integrity of the DRT transit services by addressing any misuse and maintaining a safe, accessible environment for all of their riders. And that could be on the bus and outside of the bus, as we mentioned. It enhances community safety and well-being by offering the timely interventions from Outreach and reducing the need for any emergency services to come on the bus and give that sort of intimidating presence, as Dan mentioned.
So one thing I can add to this in terms of the benefits, like what it feels like as an outreach worker, what I would say is all the referrals and requests for support we get are taken very seriously from all the different agencies across Durham Region. But what I will say, like culturally, and the culture of our team, when we get a service request from DRT, knowing that it's a formal and funded partnership, it really drives home the seriousness of the request from DRT. And so when a request comes in from DRT especially, we, kind of stop whatever we're sort of doing and check in with the team who's on shift. What are we doing about this request? Where are you guys? Who's going? If you need support, we're here. We're ready to support that request to make sure it gets taken care of or whatever the case is. So I think that really speaks volumes to like the partnership here between Outreach or Social Services and DRT. I can add in here hours of operation and staffing. So we operate 24/7, including holidays. We have 3 rotating shifts per day to provide continuous support across the region. This includes our 3 shifts are 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then 4 p.m. to midnight, and then starts all over again. We use regional vehicles to extend support across different transit routes in remote areas throughout Durham Region. We are trained in mental health first aid, harm reduction, and crisis intervention to be able to appropriately support the clients that we support. As of November 2024, there are 12 regular full-time employees, 8 regular part-time, and we also have 6 new full-time temporary outreach workers which is, my math is correct here, 26 outreach workers in total on our team.
Okay, so now that we've done all the stats, we can share a really nice success story, which is just one of many. So Matthew here was experiencing unsheltered homelessness for approximately 2 years. He had very complex needs when we met him, and he also had impaired cognitive abilities. Matthew suffered from severe chronic wounds in his limbs due to injuries and other health conditions. He frequently used the DRT to sleep on the bus to escape the cold, using the extended bus rides throughout the night and the evening. So Outreach received many calls from DRT regarding this individual, and we supported him by responding onto the bus, riding the bus with him, building the rapport and the trust with him, to ensure that he accessed any of our warm shelter referrals. So with time and support from the DRT, we were able to help Matthew transition to a more suitable warming shelter environment, which he's still currently in. And he's able to access a housing worker that's on site who can help him find permanent housing more suitable to his needs. And we don't get any more calls about Matthew.
And that's it. That's our presentation. This is our contact information for you if you want to get a hold of us. We're available 24/7. You can email us at homelesshelp@durham.ca to get a hold of us. And there's our postcard, as we say. And yeah, I think we're happy to entertain any questions for sure.
Thank you for the work that you're doing. Sadly, we need to hire and have you with us, but that is the state of our affair right now. Commissioner Carter.
Madam Chair, good afternoon. And Daniel and David, good to see you. Thank you for the work you're doing. You guys are doing an amazing job, amazing job. So I just want you to know that first and foremost. A couple of questions, if you don't mind. First of all, I just want to say the work you're doing at the Ritson and Bond area has made a significant difference, and that's absolutely wonderful. So I really do appreciate it. I wanted to ask you, what have you learned out of this experience and working in this particular initiative, this pilot? What have you learned as professionals that maybe you could share with us?
I can start. What I've learned from this pilot, especially, I've heard someone once refer to homelessness as sort of like, in terms of the population, as like an airport. There are people of all ages, people of all ages, ethnicities, who can find themselves homeless at any given time. Just like an airport, there are all different types of people that access an airport. In the same way, homelessness is similar to that regard. There is no specific gender or ethnicity. And so it can happen to anyone. And specifically to the DRT point, what I've probably learned most is that, I think a bus shelter or an extended bus ride isn't anyone's preferred option necessarily, right? There are people who are just not aware of the resources available in Durham Region in terms of warming centers, shelters, and things like that. So we're able to make a timely intervention into providing them with that information for those shelters and those resources, so that they can find a more appropriate place to spend the night, right? So I think that's generally what I've learned, is that there are people who are new to homelessness, and the first thing they think is maybe, hey, I'll ride the bus all night. And I think we can have an important, we can provide an important intervention in that.
Yeah, so I can echo Daniel's point as well, is that last year when we started, we were bridging the gap when we would get called to DRT calls. A lot of the folks that were outside or unsheltered had been unsheltered for an extended period of time, and they were not really aware of the warming centers that were opening up in the winter, or maybe they weren't accessing all the shelters or food banks, shower programs, things of that nature. And through those programs, they could get like a housing worker that could help them bridge the next gap, to make the next leap over, to end their homelessness at least. But that was the biggest lesson I think I took away over the last year of this program.
Have you been able to share your information or talk to colleagues that are working, let's say, with the TTC? I know that my period of time of homelessness, what we used to do a lot of times was travel on the subway and spend as much time on the subway as possible. And because it had long routes, you could go all the way from the east to the west. But do you have an opportunity to share that information with colleagues that are doing the same work, maybe at the TTC, and then learn from them?
One thing I can add, like now that our team is growing, we have a number of new colleagues who actually did street outreach, for example, in Toronto, and in other municipalities as well. And it's sort of been a great. We've developed sort of like a great learning environment from each other, and some of them have gotten on the TTC to support clients there and in their previous roles and things like that. So we have to that extent we've had opportunities to learn from each other as a team. And I know that at the very start of this program, as I'm aware, our supervisors had met with neighboring municipalities, even as far as Ottawa, to learn to do some community navigating, community mapping in terms of learning what other municipalities are doing. So yeah, there's been some cross pollination, I would call it, in terms of learning from best practices of other regions and things like that.
So what has to change, guys?
Well, I think we've made pretty good strides in the last year,
Yeah.
at least a small dent. Now, in terms of like for the word to trickle out to Toronto, it's a bit of a bigger beast out there. Like you said, it goes. The cities are just bigger at least.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think the word's traveling around, and I think we've made the initial steps in terms of outreach, DRT. And finally getting on those buses, riding along with people, visiting those hotspots that we shared in the presentation on a regular basis or on every shift line. And I think it's just going to be consistency and, helping out with resource navigation, things of that nature.
So yeah, and the other thing I would add, it's always appreciated. Like we have the warming centers coming here soon on December 1st. That will be a new an added resource for the community to access. So we're looking forward to making use of that and providing people a warm place to stay overnight. And that I think that'll be helpful.
So let's talk about Matthew just for a moment, because you added it to you have it as part of your slide deck. I presume that the work that you do is compassion is a big part of what you do. Fair enough?
Absolutely.
Okay. And intervention is a big part of what you do. You intervene to be able to hopefully navigate the system, assist individuals, and direct them into the right direction. Is that correct?
Yep, assertive engagement for sure.
So you may be aware that I'm a big supporter of compassionate intervention when it comes to helping the most vulnerable in our community. So I'm glad to hear that those are two key components in regards to helping. Matthew, you were saying, is now on a better health pathway. Have you had the opportunity to connect with him and seeing how he's doing? And do you believe that it'll help him onto the next stage of maybe supportive environment or independence?
Yeah, so we see Matthew often. He's actually at the shelter that's close to where we work, we work out of. And with his particular case, as we mentioned, was he had cognitive disabilities and he had been unsheltered, I guess, due to a family breakdown. And he needs more of like a group home environment. And so getting him into that shelter and connecting him with the housing workers, even with outreach, I think we're going to be able to find that path to a group home for him or to a supported living home. Whereas if he was just on his own, I don't think he would have known how to resource navigate, right?
Again, it's, what, I think you guys are doing amazing work. I really appreciate the work you do. It's work I couldn't do that you do really well. I think both of you are built in regards to having that compassion within you, but also the strength to be able to help individuals and navigate the system to be able to hopefully get them onto the pathways of the right direction. And working with DRT, I think shows us that there are other opportunities in regards to reaching people in different ways. So on behalf of the city of Oshawa and of course Durham Regional Transit and the region of Durham, thank you so much for what you're doing. Good luck. And you have you have my full support, and I know you have the committee's full support. Just keep up the great work. You guys have done an amazing job. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Guys, first off, thank you. If I can echo Mayor Carter's comments, The work that you do can't really even be measured, even though you're trying to quantify it. So I really do appreciate your efforts to do it. It shows the breadth of the services that we're trying to do from different angles to address the challenging situation we've got. Certainly, you've got a different situation in the south than you do. I'm from Uxbridge, if you don't know me. So in the south, where you've got so many situations and cases you need to deal with on an ongoing basis, in the north, we have fewer, obviously, but the challenge in the north is just the geography of getting around. So I did notice that you had the number of shelter, or not bus shelters that you'd gone to, 0 each in Brock and Uxbridge and 7 in Scugog. Can you just talk a little bit about the services you do provide, I'll say north of 7?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things our team has been doing, our team was doing, and I expect will continue in the future, we had geographical assignments at one point, and so for example, David and myself were assigned for some time to the north, to places like Uxbridge, and we were going to places like Cannington and Beaverton, and we were actually occasionally able to connect with individuals there who needed support. It was mainly around it was mainly through agencies that were already doing work up there. For example, I know like the Nourish and Develop, I think the agency is called Nourish and Develop Foundation, if I'm not mistaken. We were able to attend some of their lunches and connect with individuals there. And then sometimes, Dave and I, when we were partners, we were able to go up to Uxbridge and Beaverton in the evenings and the night and just see if we could find anybody on the street to connect with. And I think that was, I think those two strategies have been particularly effective in us being able to connect with individuals in the north. One thing I will note is that there are a variety of agencies in the north, like North House, for example, that's already connected with many of those individuals that we're already connecting with. So they're already getting some level of support and services from those agencies. But you are right to say that in the south, Durham is definitely a bigger hotspot for our work. But we are, like, I always love going up to Beaverton and in Uxbridge too, just to see if we can connect with anybody, make sure nobody gets left behind or falls through the cracks, right?
Great, appreciate that, thank you. There's a program, from my understanding, where we'll be able to help people, especially in the coldest of nights, to get them help if they want it. You mentioned, some don't want it, but those that do, to provide them transport to motels that we have connections with. Is that a service that you provide that will offer that to them and take them to a place where they can be warm overnight?
Yeah, so that's going to be more of like our warming centers throughout the winter, or you mentioned hotels, I believe, right? Yeah, so if it's on a case-by-case basis, but definitely it is something that we can do and we have the means to do. We don't take anybody in our own car or anything like that, but we do have access to transportation.
Arrange it for it. Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Really quick, just before I go to Commissioner Kerr, your hotspots that you've identified here, are they proactively patrolled or are they still just based on calls?
So those ones that we're always traveling around in the vehicles to different areas in Durham, and on our travels we're always checking in at these different places. So yeah, basically along the main corridors, like along Highway 2 and other places, we're stopping in and making sure, checking in on these different bus shelter locations to see if there's anyone there. Sometimes we'll see belongings, sometimes there are people, and they may just be just a service user, somebody who's just going to ride the bus. But we are making these sort of routine stops to check in. If we've noticed somebody's been there for a couple hours, hey, let's pop in, let's pull over and see if we can't connect, and maybe they don't need our help at all, or maybe they do, and so it's a little bit of a surprise every time. But it's something that we've been doing the whole time. It's just now we're actually we're now more so recording these proactive checks so that we can report back to you on them.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. And through you to Daniel and David, thanks again. Everybody's thanking you for your work. Well, I'm not going to be any exception. Could you please define for us the difference between a homeless person and a homeless person on the by name list?
So there are many people throughout Durham Region there are some people throughout Durham Region that are unsheltered, and then there are people who are also on our by name list. It's to say, maybe we haven't come into contact with everybody in Durham Region who is unsheltered. They could be couch surfing. They could be not to say in hiding, but they're like, we haven't identified them yet, and we haven't interacted with them yet. I haven't got them to sign the paperwork to get them on the by name list. So it's to say we have 811 people, as we mentioned in a slide before, that are on the by name list, but there could be more people that we haven't engaged yet that are not yet on the by name list. So that number of actual people who are currently homeless in Durham Region could actually be larger than the 811. Does that make sense?
It does. Are the people on the by name list ready, willing, and able to do something about moving ahead with their life, as opposed to perhaps those who don't care to be on the list for any number of reasons? Is that a bit of a defining factor as well?
So just to echo off of Daniel's point before too, is that like when we had started, the by name list numbers were a lot smaller. And also some people are not, we need their consent for them to be put on there. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of rapport building for that to happen. Now, the people that are on the by name list versus not on the by name list, it doesn't really like distinguish any initiative or anything like that on their behalf. But it does like give them the opportunity to get more opportunity, like through a housing worker and whatnot, right? And to just have their name on a list, and we can log interactions and whatnot, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why the numbers kind of fluctuate just based off of that consent piece. Maybe they're not ready for us to know their personal information entirely yet.
So my work with the GAP committee a few years ago, the by name list was about 350, that was the number I heard. And you're saying now it's 811. So do you have a handle on how many people are, total number of people homeless, and you're 811 on the list? Like, is it a smaller number, the 811, or is it the tip of the iceberg and there's a heck of a lot more people out there that are homeless?
Yeah, jump in.
Hi, I just want to jump in really quickly. My name's Kayleen Marrera. I'm the supervisor of the outreach team. And so I just wanted to talk about that. So the by name list is people have to consent to be on the by name list, and then they get connected with the Housing First workers. We're conducting, for the first time, the region is in charge of the PIT count, which is the point in time count for homelessness. So on November 18th, we're going out for a 24-hour period, our outreach team, as well as a list of volunteers, to go and count every single unsheltered homeless person within the Durham region. Not all of them have consented to be on the by name list, so those numbers will fluctuate, but that will be available to us after the November PIT count date, so that we can see maybe the unsheltered versus those who are consenting to get help who are unsheltered.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get a handle on how big of a problem this is now compared to what it was.
For sure.
And how we can perhaps hold it down and not have it get any bigger. That's the idea.
Absolutely. So when we see the difference between those who are unsheltered that we're physically counting and those who have consented to a by name list, then we can formulate a plan to see how we can support all of them.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a question about the by name list. Is the location attached to the name? Because they move frequently.
Yeah, it is. We record their location of when we meet them, and then if we meet them again in another town kind of thing, and if they're going to be staying in that next municipality, it all gets tracked on there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all the work that you're doing. I know it's difficult, and you're very caring individuals, and we thank you, and we're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandra Austin, you're next.
Thanks very much for the invitation to present today, and good afternoon, Commissioner Crawford and members of the Transit Executive Committee. I'm delighted today to introduce Caitlin Rochon, my colleague, who has been instrumental in shaping the region's public art and creative placemaking program and policy with Regional Council's support and direction. Under her leadership, and thanks to the valued input and advice of an interdepartmental working group, we've successfully implemented several pilot projects this year, which you may have seen around the region, which led to Council's adoption back in September. The importance of place as social infrastructure cannot be overstated. Just as we invest in physical infrastructure, our roads, water, and transit systems, we recognize that our shared spaces serve as the foundation of community life. These spaces are where neighbors meet, where children play, where cultures blend, and where our collective story as a region unfolds. Our research has consistently demonstrated that the social returns on investing in public spaces are profound and far-reaching. When we enhance place quality, whether it's through public art, thoughtful design, community-driven placemaking, we create the conditions that foster social connection, improve mental health, and strengthen community resilience. Even modest improvements to our shared spaces can yield significant social dividends, increased civic engagement, stronger neighborhood bonds, and enhanced quality of life for residents of all ages and backgrounds. As Council will know, and for members watching remotely, Durham Region's vision for public art and creative placemaking is vibrant, welcoming spaces and art for all. It reflects our deep commitment to these principles. The vision recognizes that when we invest in our shared spaces, we invest in our collective future. We are not just creating places, but possibilities. Possibilities for connection, for celebration, for reflection, and for the kind of spontaneous encounters that make life rich and meaningful. And so through this program, we'll take deliberate steps to ensure that residents have access to inspiring, welcoming spaces that reflects our community's diversity, creativity, and aspirations. And now I'll pass it over to Caitlin, who will provide additional information about the Durham Region Transit Pilot Public Art Project. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Before I jump into my presentation, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to Durham Region Transit for being enthusiastic partners on this project, particularly Michael Benetti, Nicole Lysott, and Corinne Vlico. So why public art? Public art and creative placemaking democratize cultural experiences by transforming underused spaces into accessible community assets. By bringing art out of traditional institutions and into our shared spaces, we ensure that cultural experiences are available to everyone, regardless of your background or circumstances. This is about making art a part of daily life, not an occasional destination. These initiatives fundamentally reshape how people experience and interact with their environment. When we create inviting pedestrian spaces, we don't just encourage walking, we cultivate the kind of spontaneous encounters and gatherings that build social bonds. In an era where community connections are so important to our collective resilience, these spaces become crucial platforms for meaningful interaction. Beyond beautifying our environment, public art creates a sustainable ecosystem for creative professionals. It provides meaningful employment to artists, designers, and cultural workers while nurturing the broader creative industries that increasingly drive economic innovation. This investment in our creative sector pays dividends across the entire community. Public art serves as a powerful magnet for tourism and local exploration. Distinctive artistic installations and creatively activated spaces become destination points that draw visitors from outside the region, while also encouraging our residents to become tourists in their own community. This generates economic benefits for local businesses and creates authentic experiences that can't be replicated elsewhere. And finally, the impact of public art on mental health and well-being is backed by compelling research. Studies consistently demonstrate that exposure to art in public spaces significantly reduces stress, anxiety, and feelings of isolation. This speaks to art's unique power to uplift spirits, spark joy, and contribute to the overall health of our community. Public art transcends traditional definitions. While many might first think of bronze statues and painted murals, contemporary public art encompasses an extraordinary range of forms and experiences. It can include dance, performances that activate our civic spaces, interactive digital installations that respond to people's movements, large-scale sculptures that become neighborhood landmarks, and collaborative murals that tell community stories. Recognizing the rapid evolution of this definition, our definition in the public art policy is one that welcomes innovation and leaves room for new forms of creative expression that we haven't even yet imagined. Creative placemaking, on the other hand, is a holistic approach to transform public spaces into creative and vibrant community destinations. Public art plays a vital role, but placemaking weaves together multiple elements, including thoughtfully designed seating that invites people to linger, shade structures that provide comfort, landscaping that brings nature into urban environments, and lighting that creates atmosphere and security. It's an iterative process that unfolds over time, where each intervention, whether temporary or permanent, builds upon previous efforts. The photos on this slide are a stark contrast to the vibrancy of the last slide. The region owns a variety of properties in the pedestrian realm that are ideal locations for public art and placemaking. Our policy is a framework to enable and promote creative and engaging uses of regional property and infrastructure like these: water supply plants along the waterfront trail, public-facing building, traffic signal boxes, bus stops, regional road right-of-ways, and more. These may be gray and uninviting today, but they present an opportunity for us to reimagine these spaces and the secondary services that they can provide. Last summer, when developing our policy and program, we engaged with the community using the Your Durham platform on the guiding principles, preferred locations, and ideas for public art. We had over 800 people visit our website and over 400 people engage with the tools. And these are the top five preferred locations as ranked by the community. And as you can see, transit-related spaces were ranked as the second most desirable location for public art. So late last year, I convened a group of colleagues who were assisting in the development of our program and policy. The goal was to get them thinking about these regional properties, to come up with some ideas for projects that we could accomplish this summer as pilot projects. We explored a number of ideas, with the transit shelter project emerging as a top choice. Based on ridership statistics in DRT's stations, terminals, and hub strategy, we chose the Oshawa Centre Terminal, Harmony Terminal, and high-volume shelters near Ontario Tech Durham College campus, focusing on shelters that did not have existing advertisements. In total, we identified 12 shelters for this project. We licensed artwork from the artists to use at 2 locations. So each artist has their piece installed at the Oshawa Centre, and then a second piece is installed either at the Harmony Terminal or at the campus. And so before I show you the beautiful artwork, I want to tell you about the selection process that we went through. On this slide, I've included some visuals from our call to artists, which was the first stage of the process initiated last May. And much like a request for proposals that we would use when purchasing other services, artists were invited to submit their proposals, including an artist statement which describes their interest in the project, their proposed design, and a CV or portfolio. We received 43 applications. Overall, we've been blown away by the number of artists in our community who have been participating in our artist calls and interested in sharing their work with the community. In line with best practices for public art selection, we convened a selection committee comprised of professional artists from the community, as well as a representative from Durham Region Transit. And we had a multi-stage selection process to work down to those top 6 selections. Through the summer, we worked with the artists to get their final designs ready to be printed, and in September, all 12 wraps were completed. The overall cost of the project was $14,420. The majority of this cost was the printing and installation of the vinyls, followed by artist fees and selection committee honoraria. The vinyls on the shelters are 3 layers. There's a clear layer first that's viewed from the inside of the shelter, then a solid layer printed on the back so that they can be viewed from both sides and they're not a mirror image. And then there's a clear anti-graffiti overlay that will make cleaning easier, hopefully. There is one exception to this, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes. So without further ado, I'm pleased to share the selected pieces with you. Holding on to this moment was originally a lino cut print created by artist Jackie Sullivan. This piece is inspired by the serene beauty of Marie-Louise Lake in Sleeping Giant Provincial Park. This piece captures the magic of a sunset with its ever-changing colors reflected in the calm waters. It's a reminder to slow down, appreciate the natural world, and find moments of peace in our busy lives. Jackie Sullivan creates hand-printed lino-cut, wood-cut, and letterpress prints, greeting cards, and block-printed textiles out of her home studio here in Whitby. Through her work, Jackie strives to hold on to meaningful moments that give her reason for gratitude and hope, and to share her sources of inspiration with others so that they too may walk more slowly and look at the world around them anew. Newtonville artist Nancy Lynn Moore paints and draws without boundaries. While she experiments with different mediums, lately she's been drawn to working with acrylic paint. Her style is experimental with an emphasis on abstracting nature, specifically treed landscapes. She never sets out to replicate an image, but instead strives to convey a mood or evoke an emotion using loose lines, rich textures, and bold colors. Shining Through offers us a quick glimpse into the forest. Windblown was inspired by the beautiful Lynn Shores and Whitby. This piece represents the beauty and serene landscapes of our precious waterfront, home to many beautiful species of birds, squirrels, and deer, to name a few. This place is very special to artist Jamie McGill, who frequently visits the walking trails during sunrise, taking in the sounds and beauty that this urban waterfront has to offer. Jamie is a self-taught Canadian landscape artist who's lived in Whitby for most of her life. Her main goal in most of her paintings is to achieve a warm and inviting feeling to the viewer, as if you're actually standing inside the painting. Her dream is to become a full-time artist. As someone who uses public transit often, the artist's tree is no stranger to the lull that can come with a daily commute. This artwork serves to break the monotony of routine for a moment, to push the viewer to reconnect with their surroundings, be curious, and perhaps let their imagination carry them to their next destination. Tree is a multidisciplinary artist from Oshawa, Ontario, with a love for high contrast, illustrative surrealism. Their mediums of choice are paint, oil or gouache, needle, felt, soft sculpture, and digital illustration. Their work often centers whimsical scenes with the goal of reconnecting viewers to their inner child. Durham Sunset is a painting celebrating diversity and unity. The vividness and variable qualities of the watercolor paint represent the diverse people of Durham. The geese are a common sight for us all, making a daily pattern of flight between Lake Ontario, Lake Scugog, and the fields in between. This work captures the beauty of their formations and togetherness. Katie McFarland is an artist living in Brooklyn. She primarily works in watercolor and ink and is forever looking for inspiration for her artwork. She requested that this piece be installed with translucent vinyl to allow passengers to view the piece with light shining through. The Heart of Durham was inspired by the incredibly beautiful, passionate, and hardworking people of Durham, from the surgeons and doctors to the local cashiers and baristas. This piece highlights how they make the everyday possible and do it with heart. Andrea Michael is an illustrator and designer based out of Oshawa. She obtained her Bachelor of Applied Arts and Illustration from Sheridan College in 2010 and has been creating ever since. She's passionate about the arts, community, and the environment. And so in addition to this project, we also delivered a number of other small-scale public art projects this summer, including traffic cabinet boxes, which we wrapped over 30 of them, and you can see a sample in the top corner. We had 6 artisan picnic tables made by Harvest Heritage Tables, and they were live painted during our Doors Open event here at HQ, and you can see them at the south entrance. We also ordered Muskoka chairs and saw a set installed in each area municipality in celebration of the region's 50th anniversary. So as I wrap up my presentation today, I just want to emphasize that this is just the beginning of our journey. We're already planning exciting projects for 2025 and are actively seeking grant funding to support these initiatives. Our partnership with DRT has been invaluable, and we're keen to continue working together to build more diverse and vibrant artwork in our community. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Everything was very beautiful. Commissioner Granville, Commissioner Anderson, I'll try that again. Commissioner Anderson.
I'll get used to this one day. Hi, thank you for the presentation. I know there is something like this going up in Curtis.
That's right. We're at the very beginning stages of planning for a potential mural project in Curtis.
Yeah, okay. And the first question when that became known to the public was, how much is it going to cost the taxpayers? I believe that question was referred to someone here to answer. And you mentioned 14,000, but what's that for? That's the cost for everything, or just the cost for one?
So the $14,000 for the Durham Region Transit Project was the total cost for the whole project. So that's the artist fees, the vinyl wraps, and the selection committee honoraria for the 12 shelters.
Okay. So that's for all the shows.
whole project,
well,
yeah.
Well, in the overall scheme of things, that's minuscule. That's my opinion anyhow. So how do you prevent our folks from defacing that or from vandalizing that, which unfortunately that would probably occur?
So these wraps were installed with an anti-graffiti overlay over them, which helps to make it easier to clean if that does happen. There is some research out there that suggests that when artwork is installed, that you actually get less tagging, and that's why the Works Department has been wrapping some of the cabinets around the region for the last number of years. Prior to it being artwork, it was just the green foliage wraps.
Okay. One final question. When is the Curtis project going to be completed?
So that project is definitely still in the planning stages.
Okay, it hasn't started yet.
No.
Okay.
So we have applied for some grant funding for it, and we're going to continue monitoring and applying for other grant opportunities. And once we hear back and have a path forward, I can report back to you.
One more question through the chair. How do you determine what kind of art would go in communities, for example, Curtis?
It depends on what piece of infrastructure we might have. So if it's a traffic cabinet box, we can pretty much do anything as long as the artist is able to transfer that artwork into a digital format that they can provide to us. So the first piece that I shared with you today was actually a very small lino cut print that the artist scanned and had blown up. And if you go and visit that transit stop, you can see all the details of the printmaking process. We've also had some pieces, for example, there's one of the cabinets that we wrapped this summer features a beadwork that was created by the artist, and then it was laid out and photographed, and then that was wrapped on the cabinet box. So as long as the artwork, the medium can transfer to a different medium, then we can consider everything. And then in terms of the selection process, we are establishing art selection committees. And so the best practice for that is to have the majority of the selection committee be professionals in the art and design space. And so that's what we're striving for. We do have an intake process on our website for people who are interested in participating in one of our selection committees when they can express their interest.
Thank you, and it does make a difference. It's Brighton's one's day, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, but the artwork is beautiful, and you're absolutely correct. We've done a mural in our Pickering Village, and it has never been tagged. It's been there for like 5 years, so I think there is some respect amongst artists. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next report is from General Manager Holmes on the capital project budget allocation and 2024 Durham Region Transit Bus Order. Take it away.
Thank you. Before I get started, and just as I was listening to the outreach presentation and being referred to as the DRT, a big football fan. So I think moving forward now, whenever I'm talking about where I'm from, I'm going to say I am from the DRT as an Ohio State fan. So that said, thank you. And I wanted to provide a brief overview of a report in the agenda today in regards to something we had to do, unfortunately, but it was necessary for us to react to news that we did not receive funding that we'd expected from the Zero Emission Transit Fund, which was a significant part of our plan in terms of funding our fleet electrification and our growth of our service over the next 10 years. As you may recall, in the 2024 budget, we had budgeted for 34 battery electric buses of the associated charging infrastructure to the tune of about $33.7 million that we were expecting and anticipating from the Zero Emission Transit Fund. We were advised recently from the Ministry of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Canada that the region would not be receiving funding through that program. If you recall, the ZETF program was a $2.75 billion fund that was set up by the federal government, and it was intended to support public transit and school buses to electrify their fleets. Part of that 5,000 bus commitment that was made a few years ago. So that being the case, we do have a need to urgently get buses ordered. It is roughly 18 to 24 months lead time from the time of ordering to we see them on the street. So we have a critical need to get our 2024 bus orders in. So as part of that, we had to take a look at what do we have. We do have a $62 million loan agreement with the Canadian Infrastructure Bank that's intended to support the purchase of up to 98 battery electric buses and the infrastructure associated with that. We also had to consider our DRT servicing and financing strategy, and we've talked a lot about sort of where are we and where do we need to get to, the pressures and the demands across the municipality, where do we stand in terms of the level of service that we need, and that was really critical to the 10-year strategy, saying we need to double the service that we have available to our residents so we can improve their access, their mobility, and provide them with a reliable transit network to get to work, to school, and other commitments that they have. Another item that we had to consider, and timing is everything, I guess, we received news from the province that the Investing in Canada infrastructure program, they were providing us with another opportunity because seeing the increasing pressures on construction costs and inflationary pressures on vehicles themselves, they're providing municipalities with approved projects to decommit funding from projects that maybe aren't as a high priority as others, and then reallocate that funding to other projects to address some of these inflationary pressures. And as you know, it's not just transit, but just the volatility across the municipal sector as it exists. So considering those factors, and we needed to move forward, we've got all these pressures hitting us, and we do have funding approved for the purchase of buses in terms of DCs and others that we had. We had to take a look at it. We considered three factors. There's those financial considerations that we have in terms of just the short-term procurement, but also the long-term operation of the vehicles. We have those operational considerations in terms of what those pressures are on the network, reliability, capacity that we've been dealing with, and we talk about that on a regular basis. And there's also those climate change considerations that we have to have, and we know that our fleet transition strategy called for complete transition to battery electric buses by 2037. But again, all of that was contingent on significant funding from other levels of the government to enable that to happen. For context as well, from a ridership perspective, and I mentioned earlier, we're continuing to set record levels on a monthly basis. We do plan on hitting about 13 million this year, 13.9 million in 2025, and about 15.2 million in 2026 when we do expect to have these buses coming into service. On the operational side, looking ahead to September 26, again, there's those network reliability and on-time performance issues, and we've talked about some of those investments in reliability with the service hours that were approved in the budget, and I just had an email earlier today. And we're starting to see on those routes where we're investing in reliability, we're seeing up to 25-30% improvement in on-time performance. And that's critical for customers to be able to rely on us to be there when we say we're going to be there. We've got the capacity and expansion of the transit network, not just new routes, but also moving from areas where we currently only have perhaps peak service, where we need to move to all-day service and weekend service, et cetera. That frequency and access issue, and then those maintenance costs of an aging fleet potentially, because we're not getting all the buses that we had initially thought. So we're likely going to have to keep some more buses around a little longer and do some refurbishments, and that does come at an operating cost. There were financial considerations as well in the options that we looked at. Battery electric buses offer savings relative to fuel and maintenance costs in future years, but that is offset by new costs that we will see in terms of operating and maintenance charging infrastructure, additional space requirements, and also the budget pressures with debt financing for the loans that we will be utilizing as part of those procurements. And on the climate change side of things, it's really difficult to not continue to pursue with the plans we had. In greenhouse gases, we know the impact that we're dealing with now from a climate change perspective. So we need to minimize those as much as possible. We have our targets with the region in terms of reaching net zero. And again, as I mentioned, the potential delays to our fleet transition to a battery electric fleet. So we really took a look at three options. Option one, so with the available funding that we do have, without putting any further budget pressures on the region or DRT, so with the funding we had in the 2024 budget for the buses, we could order 14 battery electric buses. Also with battery electric bus technology, we know they're not quite as efficiency from a range perspective, so we've been using a factor of about 1.25 electric buses equals a diesel bus in terms of the capacity that we have from that vehicle. So if we were to order 14 battery electric buses, we'd be getting roughly the equivalent of 11 diesel buses. That option would maximize the financing we're getting from the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. It is that greatest opportunity for potential future savings from fuel and maintenance, and least operational bus capacity would be the outcome of that, looking ahead to the future. Option two was 18 diesel buses. So we could pause the fleet transition, get 18 diesel buses. That would have the greatest greenhouse gas emissions relative to option one. But on the other side, it would also maximize our operational capacity looking ahead in terms of having more vehicle capacity available to the network. And the third option we looked at was sort of that in-between option of 8 battery electric buses and 8 diesel buses. And when we look at that one factor of 1.25, that's roughly equivalent to 14 diesel buses. Better greenhouse gas emissions than or greater greenhouse gas emissions than the battery electric option. So we will have more. And there's also some opportunity for future fuel and maintenance savings, and the second most operational bus capacity out of those three options. When we looked at our 10-year strategy, so that plan for us moving forward, that plan was really based on enhancing our competitiveness of public transit in the region, that transition to battery electric buses, the required funding from the other levels of government, and in the first 2 years of our strategy, depending on the option here, we'd only be ordering up to 32 of the planned 58 buses that we had initially planned through that strategy. So the other considerations in this report that you're going to see, and in terms of some of that funding and moving it around, the rebuild of the administrative building at our Raleigh complex in Oshawa, we had a revised Class A estimate, which is about $870,000 higher than the current funding. And we also have some bus infrastructure. It was an ISIP project, which we felt that because of some risk contingency that we had put in with the initial application, and that it's actually coming in lower than forecast, we did have some opportunity to reallocate some funding from that project to support what we were looking at doing here with the Raleigh Rebuild project. So all that to say, the report is recommending option two, the purchase of 18 diesel buses. Want to stress, and I know for ourselves, for our finance friends and others across the organization, it's a really difficult recommendation to make in consideration of the climate change and GHG emission impacts. And we are really looking forward to the budget of 2025 to sort of get back on that fleet electrification track as best possible. But again, we do need to consider the lack of the funding from other levels of government. So we'll need to be realistic, but again, this is being looked at as a one-time response to the situation of not getting the funding in that announcement and being able to move forward. So looking ahead to 2025 to get back on track. The recommendation of the report also talks to being able to reallocate the decommitted funds from ISIP to support the rebuild project as well of Raleigh. And because of the financing requirements and moves, there would be a companion report going to FNA that would approve the various moves on the financial side. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Watton.
Thank you, and through you to you, Bill. Based on your recommendation of the as option two, has that been presented or considered through? I know you've mentioned the climate change, but has it been presented through like our environmental people? And so on and so forth for comment, because it does seem to me that we've been making such great strides, and now we're respecting that there is a need, but we're now taking steps backwards. And is it really, really, I guess, really, really necessary to take that option 2?
So through the chair, we haven't consulted outside in terms of asking individuals or committees or other groups to opine on the recommendation. We've advised and informed that based on those operational requirements and trying to meet all of the needs that we have moving forward, that was the option that was recommended. Everyone is disappointed in terms of not being able to pursue that option as the recommendation. There is always that option to go there, but from DRT's perspective, in terms of trying to looking ahead and maximizing the services we can provide within our service strategy, we felt that option 1 was the best way to move forward. One consideration as well to take is again, as we continue to expand the transit network and improve frequency and access, the objective there is to get to result in less reliance on the automobile, get people out of their cars and onto the bus. So that in itself is a consideration as well. And that operational advantage piece is that while the diesel buses will be generating more greenhouse gas emissions than the battery electric buses, there is also that with that differential in terms of the number of vehicles we can get on the road, we can provide a better service to make it more attractive for people to leave their cars at home.
One further question, if I may, through you, Madam Chair. How long will a bus last? So how long will we have these extra greenhouse gas emissions?
Take it through the chair. So the buses that we buy today, we do have a 12-year lifespan, is what the expectation is at this point in time in our fleet management structure. There is always that opportunity, and you'll see as part of the 2025 budget, we are looking at doing some sort of midlife refurbishments because of the volatility in the industry in terms of trying to extend the life beyond 12 years for some vehicles. But at this point in time, in terms of managing our assets, it's 12 years.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Commissioner Schumer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Bill, for the information you've been presenting today. I'm going to kind of, I think, follow up on Commissioner Watten's question. And I think it was the last slide, where you spoke to, in the future, getting back on track. And I infer from that you're talking back on track with electrification. Does that proposal, that idea of getting back on track in some future year, depend, in your opinion, on additional funding, on us being approved for some kind of funding down the road?
Through the chair, so the comment of getting sort of back to the plan, we are looking at part of the budget process in terms of maximizing the number of battery electric buses that we can purchase through the 2025 budget process in the absence of funding from any other levels of government. We are continuing, and through as I mentioned before in the presentation earlier, through the Canada Public Transit Fund, we are very hopeful that through one of those streams, we will be seeking and requesting funding to support our fleet electrification and growth plan. That funding will be coming in the future, but as indicated, that won't be until 27 at the earliest that we'll see that. Until then, we will continue to maximize the number of battery electric buses that we can procure through the budget process of 25 and 26 for sure, because we do need to meet those commitments. The recommendation here is strictly for the current fiscal year and the desire to maximize the number of vehicles on the road so that we can put the best service possible on the street for the customers.
Okay. The reason I ask is, obviously we want to pursue the electrification of the fleet, but we're seeing it now, and of course there's probably going to be an election, could be 2 elections affecting us in the next year or so, and the way things are leaning, both in the public and political side, is enough of this climate change costs, whether it's getting rid of any climate charges or what have you, or maybe even investing. My concern is that down the road, depending on how things flow, we and other municipalities are going to be more on the hook to deal with electrification on our own dime. And I would think we have to start considering that in our budgeting, both short term and long term, because I fear that any support from higher levels of government, both provincial and federal, is going to dry up on this. And I'm not sure to what degree that is maybe in your sights when putting together the budget, not only for 2025 but beyond that. That financial assistance, I fear, is going to start drying up. Is that something that you're considering or possibly considering in the short and long term budgeting when it comes to the fleet?
So through the chair, I'll reserve my personal opinion regarding sort of the future of investment from other levels of government. But I will say that for 2025, we are strictly focused on the revenue and the financing options that we actually have for 2025. As we're moving into 2025 and getting ready for 2026, we'll reevaluate that. But for 2025, it will be based on the financing we have, which does not include Zero Emission Transit Fund or CPTF funding.
Okay, thank you very much.
I will not be afraid to say something. We asked why we didn't get money, and we were told we asked for too much. That's why we didn't get any money. Chair Henry.
That's good. Thank you, Chair. That was kind of where I was going. But on the other hand, we were also promised that we should be getting that money, and it led us down a path to where we are today. We made the assumption that what we were told was true. Bill, do you know why York Region, and correct me if I've got the amount wrong because I'm going from memory, how did York Region get $70 million? It was 70 million was the right number?
That's close. Through the chair, I'm not familiar with the reasons behind the minister's decisions in terms of which projects they approved and didn't approve, but that's about the amount of money that York received through ZETF.
Yeah, so I can't understand how our neighbor would get $70 million and we got zero. I don't understand the logic to that, and nobody's been able to explain it to me. Has anybody taken the time to explain it to you?
The explanations we received at the staff level was that the ZETF program was over subscribed, and that difficult decisions had to be made in terms of which projects would be approved and not.
No. Well, Madam Chair, logic would dictate that they would support all of us to some amount and not some to the whole amount. And I think what happened here in Durham was just wrong. And I know that I've made my sentiments have been made related to this, but deeply disturbing that we were led down that path right to the end, the very end, Madam Chair, where we were. And I did hear that we had asked for too much, but I also heard that we offered to redo our bid to make it work, and we were told there was no need to do that. So I'm maybe it's just my head cold. I'm a little confused.
From a government that is telling everybody that we have to be electric by 2030. Right. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, we are on to reports. Is there any questions for the general manager report at all? If not, I think I need a mover and a seconder. Commissioner Schumer, do you want to move it?
I do have a question though on 7.1.
Are you okay to move it?
I'm okay to move it. I do have a question on 7.1.
Yeah, that's good. I need a seconder. Commissioner Watton? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Schumer.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and through you to the General Manager. Just on, sorry, I've got to pull it up on my screen again. In the report, of course, we see again the on-demand, unaccommodated rate. At our last meeting, which was 2 months ago, I believe it was at that meeting, you indicated that metric has been kind of rejigged. It's been made more reliable because of duplicate or multiple requests for the same ride are no longer being counted in there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the figures we see in the chart on page 14, would it be the last 2 months in there, so September and August, that would reflect the new metric?
Just looking at stuff, I believe it was started in September is when we made the switch to the new metric.
Okay, so September's number is the new number. All the rest of them were the old inflated number.
Correct.
Okay, so and that's what that's what concerns me here is that new number, that new metric is now at 44, and under the rejigging, we would have hoped it would be less. So, you know, in comparing it with prior numbers, I'm not even sure where that number would have ended up. You do indicate in your report, of course, in September, there were certain circumstances that drove that number up. And I know we're looking at the past here back to September, and we're now into November. But are we confident that number is going to come down significantly? Because, like I said, my concern is the new metric is higher than the old metric. And I'm just wondering, you know, as we hopefully have those service improvements kicking in, are we really going to see this thing drop significantly?
Thank you, and through the chair. And as you alluded to, some of the impacts to the unaccommodated rate in September was the service availability. So where it was up in around 98 to 99, high of 99.7 in July, it dropped down to 95.4%. And really what that means is, again, there were less vehicle capacity for trips. I know that staff are working with the vendor to respond to that decrease and in terms of what happened and what steps were being taken place. So unaccommodated rate is really directly impacted by the service availability numbers as well. So we are hoping that, not hoping, we are looking for that to improve. The unaccommodated rate moving forward as they address the issues that contributed to their service availability problems in September. So that number, again, it's a combination of things that have to happen, but I know staff have been working directly with the vendor to improve their performance through the rest of the year.
Okay, and as you mentioned earlier, a lot of that is kicking in this month. So when I presume next month we'll see October, will we probably see a number that's sticking up there because the resolution really didn't happen until November?
Due to the intricacies of what impacts the unaccommodated rate in terms of service availability and other metrics, I hesitate to say that we're going to see an improvement or not at this point. I think what I would like to respond is that we'll be closely monitoring October and let you know what that number is when we get together back in December, and any contributing factors, whether it on the positive or the negative side.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. I believe Commissioner Schumer touched on some of what I was going to ask. And the reason I noticed that there was 21,000 roughly in 2024, and it was down from 2023. And I am assuming, I know the population is growing, so it's not because we have that's not the issue. You did say it's an issue with the vendor. That's what you're saying, correctly?
So through the chair, if we think back to the fall of 2023, at that point in time, we kind of loosened the restrictions of the system to try and take as many trips as possible. But the outcome of that was that the reliability was really low. We were very late, and it wasn't working well because we were trying to do too much with what we had. So we had to tighten some of those parameters around the service, so it was more reliable for people when they were traveling with us. The impact of that is once we tightened things up a little bit, we reduced the capacity for the maximum number of trips we could carry. So when we're comparing the fall of 23 to now, that's one of the factors, is that in January we had to make some adjustments because we were just trying to do too much with too little, and people that were relying on us, it was very late. So that's one of the factors. And in September, the service availability, as you noted, was a little lower. And that's really the capacity that we have on the street. So again, I can't comment specifically on what contributed to that today. I know staff have been working with the vendor to see what's happening there, and making those commitments to improve those metrics up to our targets of our service availability. We're looking at 99.5 as our target, and what will it take to get there? So we are working closely with the vendor, and managing the performance. Again, we're not blaming them because it is our service as DRT. We are relying on them to support us in meeting that. But so I'm not going to blame the vendor. It is our issue as DRT, and we're working with our partner to make sure that we can make those improvements.
Thank you. I'm glad you touched on not blaming the vendor, 'cause my next question would be, if they're not fulfilling their obligation, what recourse would we have to look for another vendor? So on that question, so I know we fulfill the 21,000. How many riders we couldn't provide service for, and what areas were the deficiencies, and could you have a breakdown on that?
Through the chair, I don't have that with me today, but that is something we can look at in terms of breaking that out more for September, in terms of where those unaccommodated trips occurred and what those numbers were. So I'll have to get back to you on that. I just don't have that available today.
I would love to see those figures. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, I don't have anyone else on the speakers list, so I just need an all in favor. Thank you. The next, I need a mover and a seconder for 7.2. Yes, a consent would be great. Do you want to move that? Second, Commissioner Anderson. I have a poll on 7.4, but if there's no other questions, all in favor? Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Schumer, I'm going to have to hand over chairing to you. Good luck with all that. I have a motion. I'm going to bring forward on 7.4. We're just going to put it on the screen.
Okay, that'd be great.
So that in the 2025 proposed fare table included in attachment 1 to the report, 2024 DRT 19 be amended to reduce the adult single ridership base fare from an increase of 5% down to 3.5%, and all subsequent fares in the attachment of number 1 be adjusted down accordingly. And it's seconded by Commissioner Watton. So that is my motion.
Did you want to speak to that?
I just think that, I've spoke with the general manager, and this is something that we can do. And I think that in today's climate, people will be looking for, and if we want to be increasing ridership, like we need to increase ridership, I think that that this is a fair increase and still maintain our targets.
Okay. Commissioner Watton, as the seconder, did you want to speak to that at all?
Sorry, I tend to agree with the mover, and I'm happy with her comments. Thank you.
Chair Henry?
Thank you. It's an interesting motion. Is anybody, and this is a substantive motion and given to us on short notice, has anybody calculated the cost of this?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll pass it over to Deputy General Manager Chris Hornberg, who is our budget champion, and I think he's got some numbers that he can share.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, the impact of the decrease, if we went to 3.5%, would be about 200,000 on a half-year basis, or about 400,000 annualized, give or take, about 10,000 there.
And just to follow up, and Mr. Holmes, you think that you can make this work?
Through the chair, yes, we can make that work.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
I believe Chair Henry just asked the question I was going to ask. So, okay, but I will ask, how much would the decrease be per ridership? Wouldn't be a great deal, would it?
Again, I'll ask Chris, do we have the number for the actual dollar value decrease on the base adult fare? I believe 5% was 18 cents.
That's right. So through the chair, it'll be, we're trying to do it right now very quickly for you. If you just give me one moment, but it's going to be so through the chair, instead of 18 cents, it'll end up being 14 cents. So would represent about a 4-cent reduction.
Okay, I am supporting the motion. What would that actually increase ridership? I don't know. I will support the motion. Thank you.
So
We
through
can
the,
hope,
so
yeah.
through the chair, again, if you recall, we've talked through this as part of the transit investment strategy. The primary determinants of ridership are reliability, access, frequency. The financial piece is a factor, but it's not the main factors that drive ridership. Yeah.
Is that everything, Commissioner Anderson?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Carter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, so we're talking about 14 cents or 18 cents, sorry, 18 cents going to 14 cents. What are we doing about the monthly pass then? It's going up $7? Is that my understanding?
Through the chair, I'll pass to Chris and his team in terms of what that monthly adult pass change would be.
So through the chair, so with the 1.5% reduction from the proposed increase, there'd be a corresponding 1.5% reduction on all the fare products. I think just to make sure we get the math right, given how many fare products there are, perhaps we can come back to you with that information. We can do it quickly here, but we can certainly come back to you with that, but it would be about a 1.5% reduction. So 4 cents would be multiplied by the, so it would perhaps be around $1 or so. But again, we'll come back with more accurate information.
So does that mean that this is going to trickle down into every category, or is this just the one category?
So through the chair, if you recall, a couple years ago, through our fare strategy, we apply the increase to the base fare, which is the adult single ride Presto fare. And then we've already have established percentages relative to that. So in terms of how much of the other concessions, youth, seniors, et cetera, are subsidized and what that reduction is, we just apply that factor through all of them so that we're not in the past where we've said a nickel here, a dime there, 25 cents there. This then ensures consistency throughout all concessions based on what that existing subsidy is. So it'll trickle down through. So basically 1.5
So
reduction.
all of this one motion will have a trickle down effect, and you're saying the total amount is $400,000 that it would be impacted by. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did we sign any new labor contracts this year?
Through the chair, no, we did not. We go to the bargaining table with our Unifor partners next year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's everybody I see in the list. So at this point, I will call the vote. All those in favor? I'm going to rely on staff to identify. I can't see anybody's hands. I can see Commissioner Carter. Do I take it that passed? I'll look back to anybody in the room.
Can I ask a recorded vote?
Sure.
Looking online for Councillor Garrett.
Okay, that passes, and I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. We have no advisory committee resolutions, no confidential matters. Is there any other business? Huh? Oh, sorry. I need a vote on the report as amended. Do I need a new mover and second?
No, because it was already happening.
Okay. Everyone in favor of the amended report? Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other business? And so our next meeting is December the 4th. Have a great day. I need a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Watton and Commissioner Anderson. All in favor? Very long day. Thank you.